Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Raritan Valley Community College. My name is Michael McDonough, and I have the privilege of serving as the president of the college. First, the Congressman would like me to introduce and acknowledge some of the elected officials in our audience tonight. If I miss someone, please forgive me. Senator Kip Bateman, Freeholder John King, Freeholder Suzanne Legay, Freeholder John Lanza, Mayor Dan Hayes, Deputy Mayor Betty Ann Fort, Sheriff Provenzano, and Prosecutor Robertson. Welcome to the college. This institution, thank you. This institution has a very long history and tradition of promoting civic engagement, and we welcome the opportunity to host this town hall. It is vital that our students see us exercise civil, thoughtful, and engaged debate. I'm also honored to introduce Congressman Leonard Lance. Congressman Lance, a lifelong resident of Hunterdon County, was elected to the United States House of Representatives in 2008 after a long and distinguished career in local and state politics. He represents New Jersey's 7th Congressional District and serves on the influential House Energy and Commerce Committee. I'm extremely grateful for his continued support of this institution. Congressman Lance, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and good evening to you all. And it's an honor for me to be here at Raritan Valley, the community college that serves Hunterdon County, where I live, and also Somerset County. And this college would not have become the great institution it is without the brilliant leadership of the late State Senate President Ray Bateman. Will you please join me in thanking I had an intern who, after high school, went out into the workforce, and then he returned to Raritan Valley later in his middle 20s to receive an associate degree here. And then, following his receipt of an associate degree, he went on to the University of Pennsylvania, from which he was graduated in December. His name is Evan Wadley. This is the type of person who is graduated from Raritan Valley Community College, from this community college, to receiving an undergraduate degree from the University of Pennsylvania. I think that's a great accomplishment, ladies and gentlemen. I am not going to give opening remarks. I want to go directly to questions, and we have a ticket system, fair questions. No one has been given preference regarding questions. I have no idea who will be asking questions. I want to go directly to questions. I'm sure there will be lots of issues that will be discussed, including immigration policy, tax policy, health care policy. Also, I hope that we can discuss other issues that constituents have raised with me, such as the National Security Advisor, the judiciary, our ties with Russia, and gerrymandering. Those are some of the important issues where I have received correspondence lately. Obviously, the issues regarding health care policy and immigration policy may be at the forefront this evening. Before we take questions, will you please join me as we pledge allegiance to our flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. I absolutely agree with that, with liberty and justice for all. And our first questionnaire is the last four numbers are 8657. The last four numbers, 8657. All righty, we'll go to the next one, and if the person who has that number can be second in line. Nine, 602. If you would please go to the microphone. I think that this is the system that is fairest. If you would identify yourself and please tell us where you're from.
Okay. Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Congressman Lance. My name is Caroline Scott. I'm from Frenchtown, New Jersey. You and I have met several times, and thank you for hosting this evening. We very much appreciate it. My question is really, well, I have lots of questions, but I know I can only ask one. So my question is about health care and why there is a need to make this a partisan issue. Why repeal? Why not reform the ACA?
Thank you. That is an excellent question. I hope that this can be an issue that is bipartisan in nature. I agree with you. And I do not think it should be a partisan issue because I do not think the health care of the American people are a partisan issue. And what I have said is that I favor not repeal alone, and I have consistently said that I do not favor repeal alone, and the record will clearly indicate that. What I have said is repeal and replace, and more recently, I have defined that as repairing the ACA moving forward. Let me give you what I think is the challenge regarding this. The marketplaces for the exchanges are not doing well. On February 14th, 2017, Humana announced it was pulling out of the ACA marketplace. Last August, Aetna announced that it was reducing its marketplace share. Last April, United Healthcare announced it was leaving 31 of 34 states. In 2017, New Jersey had only 2 insurers offering products on the exchange, down from 5 in 2016. In 2017, 5 states have only 1 insurance issuer in the ACA exchange. Now, as you know, the ACA exchange accounts for the health care of perhaps 7 or 8 million Americans who did not have health care prior to the passage of the ACA. By far the greater number are in the Medicaid expansion, and New Jersey is one of those states that expanded Medicaid. Not all of the states expanded Medicaid, but New Jersey was one of, I think, 31 states, plus the District of Columbia, 32 jurisdictions that expanded Medicaid. The original legislation had required the expansion of Medicaid, but the Supreme Court of the United States ruled that that was unconstitutional. And so we are in a situation where I think we should repair it, and I do not favor repeal without there being a replacement in place. And what I think is that we have to make clear that as we move forward in repairing it, that there is no denial of coverage based upon a pre-existing condition. Number one, letting young people stay on their parents' policies until they're 26. No lifetime caps. And I want to assure the public that the majority in each house of the federal Congress, I believe, will make sure that these provisions continue. There is, however, a challenge as it relates to the Medicaid expansion. And I want to be as up to date as I can, because I've been involved in discussions in this in Washington. When the Supreme Court declared the ACA constitutional, it did not do so, ladies and gentlemen, based upon the Commerce Clause, as was widely believed to be the case. It said it was only constitutional based upon the tax clause. The President repeatedly said it was not a tax. He said it was a penalty. The Supreme Court disagreed, said it could only go forward based upon the tax clause, number one. Number two, central to the President's proposal was expansion of Medicaid in all 50 states, based upon the fact that Medicaid had been covered in all 50 states. Originally, Medicaid was a program where states did not have to enter it, but all of the states have entered it, and then the President in his legislation said that all of the states had to expand Medicaid to 138% of poverty. That would have made that Medicaid expansion, of course, the law of the land throughout the entire United States. Supreme Court said that was unconstitutional. So we're now in the untenable position of having some states expand Medicaid, including New Jersey. Governor Christie and our state legislature expanded Medicaid. That is a decision with which I agree. But there are quite a few states, 18 in total, I believe, that did not expand Medicaid, and their representatives in Congress, of course, want to know why funds are going to the states that expanded Medicaid because they did not expand Medicaid. Now, the federal match, and I think this is very important, and I hope that I'm not getting into the weeds here, but I think this is what the discussion in Washington is about. I think, ladies and gentlemen, this is what the discussion in Washington is about. The match, the federal match for the Medicaid expansion is what started at 100% and will go down to 90% in year 2020. So 90% of the money comes from the federal government. I do not think that that percentage is sustainable given the fact that so many states, including large states like Texas and Florida, have not expanded Medicaid. So there may have to be a modification of that, and I'm fighting as hard as I can in Washington to make sure that that modification is not significant, but it may be. New Jersey gets a 50% match based upon regular Medicaid. I think that's where we are. I want to make sure that there is continuous coverage for everybody, including those who have received coverage in expanded Medicaid, including those in the exchanges, but let me state that the exchanges are, in my judgment, in very poor shape. I've indicated the figures in New Jersey and across the nation, and I think we have a responsibility in Washington to try to make the system better. Thank you for your question. I will now ask whether the person on whom I first called is here. Is the person whose last four digits are 8657, is that person here? Is this gentleman the gentleman with that number? There's a microphone. You're welcome to ask me a question at the mic.
Hello, Leonard Lance. My name is Michael Scardina. I am from Hillsborough, New Jersey. Thank you. I'm a student here at RVCC, and I also running for student government president, so I'm looking to get involved. My question.
Good luck to you. I also would wish to good luck to whoever you might be running against.
Thank
but
I won't take that personally.
well, thank you.
Countless times you voted against women's rights to choose, including defunding Planned Parenthood. And you've approved the toxic Pennies pipeline, the proposed 115-mile, 125 feet wide pipeline that would transport fracked natural gas from Pennsylvania to Hunterdon County, New Jersey, crossing 88 waterways, 44 wetlands, 33 parks, and 85% is proposed to cross the Delaware watershed. Whether the FERC approves it or not, it will cause irreparable damage to our beautiful environment. Why should people trust you when you prioritize financial gains over women's rights and over the future of our environment?
Thank you, Michael, and you're welcome to stay at the mic because I hope this is interactive. You're welcome to stay at the mic because I hope this is interactive.
I really appreciate that. That is very respectful.
Thank you. I hope I'm known as a person who is respectful. Regarding the Pennies pipeline, I have come out against the Pennies pipeline, and I have written FERC on several occasions regarding the Pennies pipeline. And the reason that I am against it is that it would, under its current configuration, go underneath at least some land that has already been preserved in New Jersey. Now, the federal government does not have to comply with our state law in New Jersey, but the statute that was written in the 1930s says that the federal government should take into consideration, at the very least, statutory law here in New Jersey. And when I was in our state legislature, working with Senator Bateman and others, I worked on open space legislation, Green Acres legislation. I think at least one time that it reached the ballot, it was my legislation in Trenton. Others have been involved since 1961, and I have been involved to the greatest extent possible when I was in the state legislature. And when we preserve land in New Jersey, there can be no further development on that land. And that is why I think the federal government should take that into consideration, whether or not it approves, and this would be FERC, the Federal Energy Commission, whether or not it approves the pipeline. Now, FERC at the moment is controlled at the moment by the Democratic Party because there are 5 members of the commission, and the party in power in the White House controls the majority of those seats. Undoubtedly, that will change now that President Trump is president, but at the moment, FERC is controlled. FERC is controlled at the moment by the Democratic Party, and I don't know how FERC is going to rule, but I have worked with interested parties, including an environmental group in that area. It's in southern Hunterdon County that I think there is the concern in this district. It's also a concern in Congresswoman Watson Coleman's district in Mercer County, and I have worked with her office on this issue as well. Now, you also raised the issue of funding for Planned Parenthood, and that is an important issue. And I have consistently voted in Washington for what is known as the Hyde Amendment that prohibits any federal funding for the abortion procedure. I understand there are many in the I understand there are many in the audience who disagree with that. The Hyde Amendment, The Hyde Amendment has been the law in this country since 1976. It prohibits federal funding for the abortion procedure. An overwhelming majority of the American people, whether or not they're pro-life or pro-choice, do not favor federal funding for the abortion procedure. I have suggested in the past, and I repeat here this evening, that if Planned Parenthood were to separate itself into two distinct entities, one entity that deals with health services for women, and then another entity that deals with abortion, with two separate boards of directors, two separate organizations, and separate locations, then I think it would be appropriate to continue funding. However, since it's unlikely that that will occur, I favor redirecting the funds. I favor redirecting the funds, dollar for dollar, to health care facilities that exist across America. And there are far many health care facilities, federally qualified health care facilities in this country than there are Planned Parenthood entities. And in this congressional district, I believe there is one Planned Parenthood facility in this congressional district, and I believe there are 6 federally qualified health care facilities. I do not want to reduce funding in any way for the program. I would hope that Planned Parenthood might consider what I have suggested. Regardless of that, I favor continued funding for the programs that I believe are necessary. Our next question.
I'll just say, Planned Parenthood is not the problem, it's the solution.
Our next question comes from 8612. 8612.
Hello, Congressman Lance. Thank you for being here. Hello. All right. Hello, Congressman Lance. Thank you for being here.
Certainly.
My name is Bruce Tunkel. I live right across the street by where Senator Bateman lived. So this is kind of a general question, but with President Trump and his many conflicts of interest that we suspect, I'm just wondering if it turns out that we investigate and he has ties to Russia and things like that, do you support impeachment?
I am a lawyer by training, and I certainly do not want to prejudice how I might have to vote on any matter of that regard. I think the responsibility in the House of Representatives to impeach or not to impeach is one of our most important responsibilities. As you know, an impeachment is the equivalent of an indictment, and then the United States Senate would be the judge and jury, in effect, and it would take a two-thirds vote in the Senate to convict and remove a president or other high official from office. I think your larger question, if I might extrapolate, is whether there should be an investigation regarding Russian involvement in the recent election, both involvement by the Russians, and I think there clearly was involvement. I think that is a matter of public record, as the Russians unfortunately involve themselves in election contests in other parts of the world, and on the other side, whether there was any involvement from the Trump campaign with Russia. I have confidence in the intelligence committees of the Congress of the United States. And in particular, Senator Burr, the Republican chair in the Senate, and Senator Warner, the ranking Democrat in the Senate, are at the moment taking the lead on this, and I have been encouraged by the bipartisan nature of what seems to be occurring by the Intelligence Committee in the Senate. Now, our Intelligence Committee in the House, it's Congressman Nunes from California, and Ranking Member Schiff. And I believe they will conduct an investigation as well. But your further question, if I might extrapolate, is what if somehow that bipartisan cooperation does not continue? And I think the lead at the moment is in the Senate with Senator Burr and Senator Warner. I hope that that bipartisan cooperation will continue, and those committees have a record of being bipartisan. But if that were not to occur, and I place it in the subjunctive voice, if it were not to occur, then of course the question would arise whether or not there should be another committee. And I understand that. But first, I want to give the intelligence committees the authority to do what I think they are doing. And at the moment, I have confidence in those committees. And of course, we will be guided by what they determine. And beyond that, I'm not going to comment on a speculative matter, because I would be a person who would be involved as a member of the House in any action in that regard.
Can I just quick follow-up?
Of course you may follow up.
Thank you. Well, how long do we wait to find out if there will be investigation? And the thing is, it's not saying that anything is or is not going on that shouldn't be, but there's a lot of questions, obviously, based on President Trump's failure to release tax returns. We know, we also know that he has business interests internationally, including with Russia, that he is not abandoning. And so this is not just a question of being against or for President Trump. This is a question of these things are going on, and they raise legitimate concerns.
Yes.
So anyway, so we need support from our Congress people and senators to do the right thing.
I understand that. I respect that. And I certainly will do what I think is in the national interest based upon the evidence that is presented to me, based upon the Intelligence Committee. Our next question comes from number 8613. Number 8613. Number 8641. I will be happy to stir the pot, and obviously, I haven't stirred it well enough, given the questions that I've received so far. (8613) or 8641? Yes, sir.
Thank you for holding the meeting.
Are you Mr. 8641?
That's me.
Oh, very good. What is your name and where you're from?
I'm Dr. Robert Yankowitz. I'm from Millburn, New Jersey, Essex County.
What is your specialty, doctor?
Pardon me?
What is your specialty?
I'm a psychologist.
Very good.
I won't comment, although it's tempting.
I hope you'll give me a clean bill of health, doctor.
Well, you've already addressed the question that I had spent the whole week preparing, which is that you would support, I assume, a House Select Committee to investigate Russia's interference with our election, and not only that, but its continued, let me find the place that I wrote. Actually, Russian officials have admitted their government maintained contact with President Trump's immediate circle before the election, and these communications have continued to the present. Russia, as you mentioned, has been involved in influencing politics among our European allies. It is vitally important that we understand the extent and motivation of these contacts. Such influence poses grave threats to our democratic processes, and Russia's continued aggression poses an existential threat to our country. Would you support the establishment, as you said you would, of a House Select Committee with the full powers to subpoena and report to the public?
Doctor, first I want the intelligence committees to do their work, and if they break down in some sort of partisan divide, then...
I understand that,
Yes.
and I'm impressed with the fact that the Senate Intelligence Committee is proceeding with what appears to be nonpartisan activity.
Yes.
However-
Thank you.
However, I see no reason why the House shouldn't launch its own investigation, which would simply... The House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence appears not to be working in a nonpartisan manner, and in fact is dragging its feet, which is why I asked for a select committee to be established to investigate these problems.
Thank you. I believe the House Committee can operate in a bipartisan capacity under the leadership of Chairman Eunice and under the leadership of Ranking Member Schiff. You raise a larger point, however. You spoke about Russian involvement across the globe. And I think that is a very important point. And I want you to know that I am very suspicious of the Russian government. And my views...
Your president isn't.
My views are shared, I believe, or I share the views of the Secretary of Defense, who has spoken about this recently, and of General McMaster, who has just been appointed the National Security Advisor. And I believe that the President's appointment of his new National Security Advisor is a significant step in the right direction. And regardless of that, I have a responsibility to indicate constituents throughout this congressional district my views. And my views are that Russia is not a friend of the United States, and that Vladimir Putin has been a bad actor on the world stage, that the incursions into Ukraine and the Crimea are not to be tolerated, and that we should be wary of Vladimir Putin. I am sure that that is the view shared by colleagues on both sides of the aisle in the Congress of the United States, and, for example, over in the Senate with such leaders as Senator McCain, who I believe is the real leader in this area, Senator Lindsey Graham.
If I may interject, Congressman, I appreciate very much your viewpoint on these issues, and I think you can see the support that you've got here. And I certainly hope that you would stand with the examples that you've set, Senators McCain and Graham and perhaps Collins and other public servants as yourself who recognize that now is the time to put country before party.
Next question. I've drawn numbers that are next to each other. 9606 and 9607 are either 9606 or 9607 here. Yes.
Good evening, Congressman Lance. My name is Mary Schwankler. I live in the Stanton area of Reddington Township. In 2009, you supported the American Clean Energy and Security Act and the American Renewable Energy Act. However, you recently voted to do away with federal rules protecting streams, a valuable source of potable water, and forests, which help to clear greenhouse gases from the atmosphere. In addition, you have agreed to allowing the Dakota Access Pipeline to be built. You and I both live in an area where our water comes from underground aquifers, and the building of such a pipeline here would be a disaster for our water supplies. I feel betrayed, all of us feel betrayed, because you have flip-flopped on your position on the environment. What is your position? Pick a position.
Thank you for your question. I did vote for cap and trade in 2009. That's what you're referring to. Cap and trade did not pass in the United States Senate. I think it would be fair to say that it did not receive significant support once it was over in the Senate. I would not vote for it again for the following reason. I do not think that the Obama administration negotiated well in Copenhagen in 2009, and I do not think the Obama administration negotiated well with the Paris Agreement that does not require China to begin reducing its emissions until 2030.
We still need to do our part.
Yes, absolutely. And I agree with that. I'll be happy to answer your entire question. And I think that we are doing our part because we are relying much less heavily than we formerly were on more traditional forms of fossil fuels. We are relying much more heavily on natural gas, which is I have voted for a strategy that includes natural gas, and natural gas is a pollutant, but it has roughly one-half the pollutant qualities of more traditional fossil fuels. I also favor tax credits for even cleaner sources of energy, wind, solar, and other sources of energy. Now, you mentioned the matter regarding streams, and this does not mean that there can be pollution into streams. It means how far away there can continue to be coal mining.
What about the coal tailings?
And let me say that I balanced what I thought would be less opportunities in coal mining. We have to move away from coal mining, but in my judgment, that rule would have had a significantly negative impact on coal mining, number one. Number two,
Oh, my God.
and one of the reasons, I think, one of the reasons that Donald Trump was elected president was because hardworking, middle-class workers in states like West Virginia, in Western Pennsylvania, in Ohio, in Michigan, and in Wisconsin believed that Secretary Clinton had no interest in trying to have the direction that we move eventually away, not take into account the fact that we have to make sure that American workers have employment opportunities. Now, also recently,
Make sure there's clean water, too.
Also recently, I was one of 4 Republicans in the House to vote against a proposal that would have negated a rule late in the Obama administration. It passed the House. I voted against it, regarding the environmental matters in the West, particularly in Wyoming and that area. I was one of 4 Republicans to vote against it, and the Obama administration had promulgated this rule, and in the rule it stated that we should consider climate change as one of the factors, and this was a resolution sponsored by the new member of Congress from Wyoming, Congresswoman Cheney, and I was one of 4 Republicans to vote against it, and one of the reasons that a majority of my colleagues supported overturning the resolution, is that the resolution spoke about climate change.
Told the
And
truth.
I believe that climate change exists, and that is why I voted. That is why I voted as I did. Thank you for your question. Now, were you 9606 or 9607?
9607.
Thank you. Who is 9606? Is 9606 here? Our next question comes from 2834. 2834? 2818?
Take your time to answer the question about the board system.
2636? 2818, very good. 2818.
Hello, Congressman. Thank you for coming out and having us here. I'm up here, fella. How you doing? I'm Steve Basansi from Winfield Park, New Jersey. I have a question about this dopey border wall we're proposing to build down south. I just want to know if you would sign any bill that would allocate funds from our tax money to build that wall, regardless of who's going to be reimbursed for it later, because I don't believe that would ever happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And Winfield Park is in Union County, and it's an honor to represent you in Congress. I have toured the southern border. Speaker Ryan, I think, was there today. I think Speaker Ryan is a very fine individual. I think he is a person of great integrity. And I am proud that he is Speaker of the House of Representatives. I have toured the southern border. I've been south of San Diego, south of Tucson, Arizona, and in McAllen, Texas, in the Rio Grande Valley. I do not believe it is necessary to have a wall in all places on the southern border, based upon my having been there. I do think that we should beef up security, and that may mean a better wall or a better fence in certain portions of the border. But I do not believe we need a wall throughout the whole southern border, particularly in Arizona. The terrain in Arizona is incredibly rough. And regarding the payment, I think $20 billion is far too much, and I do not think the Congress would appropriate $20 billion. And I would like to see a concrete proposal as to precisely where the administration believes the border needs to be secured better, and also a concrete proposal on its funding. Our next question is 2834. 2834.
Representative Lance?
Yes.
I was
Yes.
2636.
Very good.
I wore my Ken Ham red sweater today to try to get picked for a question, so thank you very much for choosing my lucky number. My question is on education. My name is Kelly Kapler. I'm a proud product of the Montgomery School District, and I currently... Thank you. Yep. And I currently reside in Lambertville. I come from a long line of teachers. My grandmother was a first-generation American science teacher. My mother, aunt, and her other sister, my two aunts, are all educators, mostly in New Jersey. The Choices in Education Act, H.R. 610, which is currently in committee, would change federal education funding. This, in addition to the appointment of Department of Education, Ms. DeVos, who I share concerns with many of your other constituents about. But this act in particular would receive, that states would receive block grants if only they distribute a portion of the funds to parents who enroll their children in private schools or homeschool their children. This funnels money away from already strapped public school systems and into for-profit charter schools who are not held to the same level of accountability. Can you please share with us how you will vote on this measure for our New Jersey public schools?
I, too, am a proud graduate of the public schools of New Jersey. I was graduated from Glenn Gardner Grade School, which no longer exists. I will answer the question in full, but I wish to impart, as the questioner imparted, her experience in the public schools, and I would like to impart my experience in the public schools. And I think it's important that you indicated your experience in the Montgomery schools. Glenn Gardner Grade School had one teacher for kindergarten first, another for second, third, another for fourth, fifth, another for sixth, seventh, and the principal taught eighth. And then I'm a proud graduate of North Hunterdon Regional High School in Annandale, New Jersey. I am a strong supporter of the public schools. I am not familiar with the bill you reference. However, I do not favor significant funneling of monies away from the public schools. Number one. Number two, there may be teachers in the audience, and you are a teacher. Am I right? I'm right. You are a teacher. I have worked closely with teaching staffs across this state. I was honored to have been endorsed by the NJEA last autumn. I fought for teachers when I was in the state legislature, particularly on the issue, ladies and gentlemen, of pensions for public employees. I was New Jersey's leading opponent of borrowing without voter approval, which occurred in 1997 to fund the pension system in this state for public employees. I indicated at the time that it would be a disaster. I was punished by my own political party for that. It has proven to be a disaster, and I will continue to work with teacher organizations, not only here in New Jersey, but the NEA in Washington. I hope that we can continue to have strong public schools as one of the bulwarks of our democracy. And let me repeat, in answering your question finally, I'm proud to be a graduate of those public schools.
Thank you.
Our next questioner is number 9554. And after that, 9505. 9554. Good evening, sir.
Hello, Congressman. My name is Jeff Naiman. I'm from Summit. I'm a physician there. Hello. The Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act of 2017 will allow the transport of guns across state lines by those with concealed carry permits to states which also allow concealed carry. You supported previous versions of this bill. States have varying requirements to get those permits. Some require no permits, others have been found to give permits to felons. Why do you agree with undermining the rights of states to regulate concealed carry by non-residents? Do you believe this makes your constituents feel safe?
Thank you. I don't think you should be punished if you are traveling from one state to another and the home state permits that. And I am reminded that there was a person, I think from Florida, who came up to New Jersey to help out after Hurricane Sandy, and he had a concealed weapon based upon the laws in Florida, and I believe that he was arrested here in New Jersey. We have strong laws in New Jersey regarding this. I don't think our state legislature is going to change our laws in this regard, but I, as a matter of federalism, as someone who believes deeply in the responsibilities of state capitals, leave to state legislators in Tallahassee, for example, what the law should be in that state. And I think if you're traveling, that you should be able to have that while you are traveling.
I'm not quite done yet. I understand your answer, but I do not feel that just people traveling through the state, even though they want to carry guns, just can't keep them unloaded in their trunks or whatever. And I would like to remind the senator that you and the Republican Party have supported state rights forever. And to overrule the rules of the laws of New Jersey just because now the conservatives control the Congress and the presidency would be an insult to the voters of New Jersey.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Doctor. Our next questioner is 9521. Sir, you first. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Congressman. As someone who lived through the calamity of the financial disaster of 2008, I have very real concerns about what's going to go on in the House in the coming months. I'd like to know what is your standing on what's going to happen with Dodd-Frank and the loosening of the controls of Wall Street. Quite frankly, Congressman, I don't trust those people, and they're going to run us into the ground again if you let them.
And sir, may I have your name and where you're from?
Ed Marcheski, Bridgewater.
Bridgewater. My chief concern with Dodd-Frank was that I think it continues too big to fail, because it designated certain entities as systemic financially. And I am deeply concerned that under Dodd-Frank, that if we were to have another financial crisis, I certainly hope we don't have a financial crisis at all, and I certainly hope we don't have a financial crisis to the extent that we had a financial crisis in 2008 into 2009.
We need you to do your job and watch them.
And I also think that community banks, which were in no way involved with the financial meltdown, have been harmed by certain provisions of Dodd-Frank. But I agree with you that we have to make sure, moving forward, that never again big financial institutions be bailed out. And I fear under Dodd-Frank that we have what is known as moral hazard, that big banks might be under the impression that they could be bailed out in the future. And I want this audience to know I am adamantly opposed to any further taxpayer bailout of big banks or other...
Let's stop it before it gets there. That's my point, okay?
Thank you.
What about the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau? Where do you stand on that? Where do you stand on either cutting its budget or just taking its power totally away? I'd like to hear about that, please.
I will examine any proposal by the Trump administration, and I'm not sure. I want to make sure that never again are financial institutions bailed out by the American taxpayer.
So that means oversight. Is that correct? Am I correct to hear you say that? Oversight.
I certainly think we need requisite oversight. I'm not sure how many entities we need for oversight, but I certainly think we need oversight. Thank you.
I think you'll agree a lot of people in this room need you to do your job, sir.
Thank you. Next.
Not 9585.
Okay, very good. Hello, 9585.
Yes, I'm Cindy McGonigal from Bethlehem Township. Recently, you said that President Trump's travel ban was rushed and poorly implemented. You also said that it is Congress's role to amend our immigration laws, suggesting that the president may have overstepped his power. Now, we don't know what the new ban will say, but will you publicly condemn the president's discriminatory travel bans and promise that you will not do the president's bidding by passing any legislation that discriminates who can and cannot come into our country based on our religion or country of origin?
I was the first Republican in New Jersey to criticize the initial executive order. I criticized it. I criticized it within 24 hours, and I think actually before that. As you know, this occurred over a weekend. I certainly do not think it should have applied to green card holders. And certainly, also, we should permit into this country brave residents of Iraq and Afghanistan and other places who have served as translators and interpreters for the armed forces. We don't know what the new executive order will be because it hasn't been promulgated yet. I hope it is much more narrowly tailored, and if I don't like all of its provisions, I will certainly say so at the time.
How about the refugee families from these other countries?
Yes. I favor letting refugees in this country so long as they are fully vetted. And I believe that it is a matter of national security. And for example, 2 Iraqis came into this country as refugees. And they have been arrested, and they were sending funds back to Al-Qaeda, and they were also involved in those horrible IEDs that killed American troops. And I'm very pleased that they have been arrested, and I can't imagine there is anybody in this room who disagrees with me on that.
The refugee families that are coming in have been vetted for 2 years. We have families coming into New Jersey. I'm not sure that they're residing in your district, but those of us that live in your district are helping them, collecting clothing, giving them meals, helping set up their apartments, and we would hope that you would welcome them as well.
I do welcome them. I do welcome them, and I commend you for your efforts in that regard. And I think it's admirable, the work you and others are doing, and I certainly welcome to this country refugees who seek asylum here. And I think that is in the American tradition, and I'm sure that we all share that view, and I want you to know that I share that view.
Thank you.
The next question, yes, sir. And after you, sir.
I am 9521.
Thank you. After Mr. 9521, 9618. Very good.
My name is Eric Fiore, and I am from Phillipsburg. And my question is about the environment. You stood up for the Highlands Act to protect New Jersey water. You supported preserving Windy Acres in Clinton Township. You mentioned before how you were against the Penn East pipeline. Yet, you are now supporting the Keystone XL and Dakota Access Pipeline. Despite every upgrade in pipeline technology, there are still regular reports of ruptures and failures nationwide, spilling crude oil into our waterways and drinking water aquifers. Most recently, 180,000 gallons in North Dakota in December 2016. Americans will not benefit from Canadian oil sold to China, and the jobs available while building the pipelines are temporary. Why are you supporting the Keystone XL and Dakota Access Pipeline?
I believe that the Keystone Pipeline was examined thoroughly by the Obama administration, including the Department of State.
And rejected.
And I believe that the examination indicated that it should move forward. But for political reasons, during the campaign, that did not occur. I believe that those pipelines in the Middle West are safer than
They're not.
than transporting the oil by rail or by truck. And that is why I support them. The reasons that I do not support Penn East are based upon my views that much of the pipeline at Penn East would go under preserved land here in New Jersey, and I think the federal government should take into consideration our state laws, although I repeat, the federal government does not have to do that, but I'm certainly urging the federal government to do that. Thank you for your question.
It seems to me like if a pipeline is New Jersey, you don't want it. And if it's someplace else that's outside of your district, it's okay. That's the way it seems to me. I don't understand why that is.
I think the Keystone Pipeline was thoroughly investigated and examined by the federal government. Our next question is 2867. 2867. Yes. Hello.
Hi, Liz Mulholland, Westfield, New Jersey.
How are you?
Thank you so much for holding this town hall for us to hear what we have to say
Yes.
and listen to our concerns.
Of course.
One of my major concerns is about health care.
Yes.
Now, I know you voted to repeal and get rid of Medicare, and you wanted to put in place a voucher system that would cost $5,900. You give a $5,900 voucher system.
Mm-hmm.
For any of us who pay for insurance, we realize that $5,900 is a joke, and especially so for those who are going to retire.
Mm-hmm.
And while the plan you supported protected people who were 56 and older, the rest of most of us in here probably would get stuck with that voucher system. We would not be able to afford health care. So when you say that you're pro-health care and you're going to help the regular people, that doesn't sound right when you vote on bills such as these. And also, I might add, it's really convenient that you yourself don't have to follow the same rules that you're putting the rest of us through. And until you get what the rest of us get, you won't have our support.
May I
I would also like to add, as far as you not providing funds for Planned Parenthood because you disagree with, I'm sorry, is this your time? No. Okay, so anyway, because 3% of the activities that go on in Planned Parenthood, you decide not to fund any of Planned Parenthood, there are side effects to that. And those side effects come in an increase in STDs. Just in New Jersey alone, in Burlington, there has been a 34% increase in STDs, a 53% increase in Cumberland County, 28% in Hudson County, and 46% in Morris. So when you make these decisions that affect the rest of us, it hurts many people. And unfortunately, in the case of Planned Parenthood, it affects primarily teenagers and those in poverty, and that is just wrong.
Thank you. I will try to address all three of your questions. The Medicare question, number 3, the Planned Parenthood question, and then last, the number 2 question about my own benefits. Those were your 3 questions?
Actually, no, I was just commenting.
Would it, in your opinion, would it be appropriate for me to address all 3?
That's up to you.
Does the audience think I should address these? Thank you. Thank you. The audience agrees that I should address all 3. I think you make a good point. Pardon me, please? Quickly. I'll be as quick as the questioner. Medicare, the premium support for younger Americans would be voluntary, not mandatory, and that is not part of what we're doing now, and I think there should be a significant discussion on that, and you raise a very good point as to whether we should modify it at all, and I will take your views into consideration. I want everybody in this room to know that I strongly support a continuation of Medicare, and I understand your point of view as someone who is younger, that you want traditional Medicare, and you have my word that I will take your point into consideration. Number 1. Number 3, on Planned Parenthood, I favor those programs for the conditions that you have discussed, and that is why I would redirect the funds to qualified health centers. You indicated...
Not good enough. Teenagers are not going to go to qualified health centers. Teenagers are going to go to Planned Parenthood where nobody knows their name. That's the reality. And I have teenagers. I want them to be safe. I want them protected. And I want this health care available to them.
And regarding your statement that 3% of Planned Parenthood's activities are related to abortion, the Washington Post in August of 2015 gave that 3 Pinocchios. There are a series of Pinocchios. One...
That's one person there. That has not been proven by any study at all whatsoever.
It's not rhetoric.
It's absolute rhetoric.
It is 3 Pinocchios from a non-partial source, the Washington Post. But then I want to address your statement regarding somehow I don't have to follow the rules regarding health care benefits, and if you would please elaborate, because I think this is an important issue.
Well, I think that from the public's perception, and you have full health care benefits, not you personally, per se, but governors, legislators in offices get great health care benefits. You don't have to follow the health care benefits that you're voting on. You're not in the ACA. You aren't forced to do that. You aren't forced to pay for private medication, private coverage. However, if you choose to, you can, until you make those laws applicable to the lawmakers who have to live with the laws that they create. The public is never going to have faith in you when you're making these rules. I mean, that's just a reality.
Let me.
And again, this isn't personal against you. This is.
But let me respond, because you have directed the question to me. I am prohibited by the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, to continue to receive my health care coverage through the Federal Employees Health Benefit Program. There are 2 million Americans who work for the federal government who are in that program. I was in that program as a federal employee until the ACA, when the ACA prohibited members of Congress from participating in that program. That is a joint effort. The employee pays a portion of the cost. The employer pays a portion of the cost. It's for your postal employee, for someone who works in the national parks, for those who work in bureaus and administrative agencies, and members of Congress, based upon an amendment in the U.S. Senate, were prohibited from continuing in that system. The audience has to decide for itself whether that's good or bad.
But you still have covered health insurance, unlike the rest of us.
I have covered health insurance that my wife and I pay for privately, unrelated to the federal government.
I commend you for that.
Do you I believe, ladies and gentlemen, that we should build on the system we have in this country, where more Americans than not have health insurance coverage through their employment. That is the traditional American system. And members of Congress who were no longer permitted to go into the federal employees' health care plan could have gone into the District of Columbia Obamacare exchange. But that is not, in my mind, the equivalent of the program that 2 to 3 million Americans have who are hardworking federal employees. My wife and I currently receive our health care coverage through what had been my wife's employment, not my employment, and we pay an enormous amount of money, in my perspective, every month. The deductibles are quite high, but I want this audience to know that I am no longer permitted to be in the regular federal health care benefits plan. I don't think that that should be the principal discussion on this issue. I only raise it because you raised it, and I'll certainly take your views into consideration, particularly your views regarding Medicare.
I appreciate that.
Now, there's a question from a person in the spillover room, and the question comes from a gentleman in Summit. How concerned are you about President Trump's connection to Russia, and what leadership steps can we expect from you on this? I think I've indicated my position on that. Why don't we go to the next gentleman who is next on our list?
Thank you, Congressman. Really appreciate you appearing tonight, unlike some of your colleagues. This has to do with tax returns?
Certainly.
Specifically, a certain person we all know. Mm-hmm. Throughout the campaign and since the election, Mr. Trump has refused to release his tax returns. First, he used the audit excuse. Now he hides behind a presidential exclusion of conflict. Polls indicate that the majority of American people want them to be released. Excuse me. This goes beyond Russia. It's a global issue. President Trump has not divested his holdings and conducts national affairs with many countries that he seeks to show favor to for business interests. Eric and Don Jr. are costing the American taxpayers millions of dollars for security, and while doing that, they put their very security forces at risk of life simply to protect them to promote the Trump brand. Your colleague, Bill Pascrell, who you joined to pass the Blue Line law to support our law enforcement who are out in force here tonight. He is attempting to use a rarely needed law to compel the president to release his tax returns to the House Ways and Means Committee in order to assess any conflicts of interest. Conflicts that, although denied by the president, saying that the president cannot have conflicts, put every action he takes into question and threaten our country, both home and abroad. You said you are an attorney. I'm going to ask you a question as an attorney might for a yes or no answer. It may be hard, but give it a try. Will you support Representative Pascrell's efforts and those of the majority of the citizens of this country and the constituents in this room to get the president or the IRS to turn over his tax returns to the House Ways and Means Committee?
I think Congressman Pascrell's bill goes too far. I think, however, that President Trump should turn his tax returns over to the public. I urge him to do so. And regarding investigations related to Russia and other places, which was part of your question, I have confidence in the intelligence committees, particularly the lead taken by the Senate, and I'll let the facts...
Excuse me, Congressman, those investigations are investigating the relationship between the campaign and conflicts with Russia.
Mm-hmm.
They are not seeking the president's tax returns.
Mm-hmm.
That is a specific question which you need to provide a specific yes or no answer.
Thank you. I think Congressman Pascrell's bill goes too far.
Why?
Because I believe I don't like overreach from Congress on tax returns. I think tax returns are private matters, and I think it would be overreach. Our next question...
Excuse me, you didn't answer the question, Congressman.
I answered it to the best of my ability. I think Congressman Pascrell's bill goes too far.
Congressman, what don't you like about the bill. Why did he say it goes too far? It's requesting the tax returns for private examination within Ways and Means. It's not even going to be released to the public unless they feel it's a conflict.
I don't believe the Ways and Means Committee should be investigating the returns of private individuals. I have seen...
He's the president! He's the president! He's not a private individual! He's a public individual! He's the leader of the free world!
I believe there has been too much abuse. I believe there has been too
You
much...
have to release yours.
No, I don't.
You don't by an elected member of Congress?
No, I do not.
Do you?
I do not release my tax
You
returns.
don't release your tax returns?
I have to fill out a financial disclosure form every year. Our next question comes from number 2823. Number 2823. Is there number 2823?
Congressman.
Yes. Yes.
Congressman, there's a question up here.
Yes, of course. Yes.
Wait. Hi, I am Jeremy Betts from Summit, and I would like to know, will you hold Russia accountable for hacking and how?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. The answer to that question is yes, I will hold Russia accountable.
Yeah,
And
I can
the
agree
better
with that.
part of your question, I believe, is how should we hold Russia accountable? And I favor continued sanctions on Russia.
Yes.
I favor perhaps even increasing the sanctions on Russia. I do not believe there is a moral equivalency between the government of the United States and the government of Russia.
I can agree with what you're saying.
And I hope that the President follows the advice, particularly of his Secretary of Defense, General Mattis, particularly of his new National Security Advisor, General McMaster. I think that the new National Security Advisor is preferable to the old National Security Advisor.
That is true.
And I hope that the Russian regime will understand that the tradition of this country is to trust but verify, as President Reagan so famously said. I also believe, and this is not related directly to your question, but I also believe that it is important that we maintain a strong and continued relationship with NATO. I have never met President Trump. I know Vice President Pence. Not only have I met Vice President Pence, I know Vice President Pence. Vice President Pence was in Europe over the weekend, and he reaffirmed our strong commitment to NATO. Vice President Pence stated at that time that other nations in NATO should do a better job in meeting their responsibility of spending 2% of their GDP on defense matters, as we spend, I think, this is related to NATO, as we spend, I think, something like 3.6 or 3.7% of our GDP. In other words, we're doing more than our fair share regarding NATO, and I hope that other countries will step up the pace. I'm very pleased that the Vice President was so emphatic regarding NATO, and also because that is so intricately related to Russia, to our defense of Europe based upon a potential threat from Russia. I also commend the UN ambassador, Governor Haley, for her strong denunciation of Russian involvement in the Ukraine and in Crimea, and I hope that those policies are the policies of the Trump administration. We have reached the end of the hour and a half. However, I will take another question. 2916. 2916. How about 2839? Very good.
Good evening.
What is your name and where are you from?
So, my question is...
What is your name and where are you from?
Oh, I'm sorry. Annette Cordasco, Longo, Bridgewater, New Jersey. And thank you for holding the town hall.
Thank you.
So, my question deals with a president who I feel throughout the campaign denigrated the United States, our intelligence agencies, and our free press. And I am troubled to hear the president of our country say complete falsehoods and accuse the free press of fake news. And so my question is, how I haven't seen the Republicans push back against his behavior. And I'd like to know what you plan to do and how you will mobilize the other Republicans to push back against this man when he makes delusional statements.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I think I struck a chord.
Thank you very much. And I think that was a fine last question, and I intend to answer it to the best of my ability. I favor a free and unfettered press. I favor intelligence agencies working to the best of their ability based upon the information they gather across the globe. And that is why, let me repeat, that is why I was pleased with the appointment of General McMaster. I believe that when the president misstates, as for example, I will indicate my views as to where I believe the truth exists. And that includes, let me give you an example, if I might give you an example. The president won the Electoral College by 306, by 306 electoral votes. That was not the largest majority since Ronald Reagan, and you have just heard me say that I do not believe that that was accurate. I also try always to lead by example, and I have tried this evening, as I always try, to be factually accurate and to state my views, and that is why, for example, I criticized the president.
But the issue is the Republicans need to push back when he is not honest.
I certainly believe that I'll certainly always try to speak the truth, and where I believe the president has not spoken the truth, I will indicate my point of view, and where I disagree with what he has said. I want to thank everybody who came to the town hall meeting tonight. I believe that it is incredibly important that there be interaction between those of us who serve in Washington and our constituents. I am honored to serve you in the Congress of the United States. I am honored to continue the dialogue that has occurred this evening, and I certainly inform the public that I will be holding another town hall, live town hall, here Saturday morning between 9 o'clock and 10:30. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.